Hey man, there's a kind of confidence that doesn't need to speak loudly, doesn't need to prove itself, and doesn't need to chase validation. And when a woman encounters that energy, it shakes her up in ways she didn't expect. Not because it's aggressive, not because it's mean, but because it holds up a mirror that reflects her own emotional uncertainty. And what you'll find is that the more grounded and silently confident you are, the more she begins to question herself. Not in a toxic way, not in a damaging way, but in a way that forces her to rise, to self-reflect, to wonder what she needs to do to get closer to your energy. That slight sense of emotional discomfort, that's the signal that your presence is affecting her. See, most men try to make women feel safe by giving too much, too many compliments, too much attention, too many words. But safety isn't built on volume, it's built on stillness. And when a woman feels your silent confidence, she begins to notice something strange. She can't predict you. She can't read you like she can read every other guy who tried too hard. And in that unpredictability, you take the upper hand without saying a word. Now, she's the one leaning in. She's the one overthinking. She's the one asking herself, does he really like me? Why isn't he chasing me? What is he thinking? And when a woman starts wondering, she starts investing. Silent confidence doesn't mean you're cold. It doesn't mean you're emotionally unavailable. It means you're measured. You give, but you never overgive. You're present, but never desperate. You show interest, but you never need it returned. You walk into every interaction from a place of self-possession, not a place of trying to earn approval. And that energy makes her second-guess her own usual moves. She realizes her normal tricks don't work on you. Her silence doesn't shake you. Her beauty doesn't distract you. Her mood swings don't unbalance you. And suddenly, you become the one thing she doesn't understand but wants more of. When you carry yourself with silent confidence, you don't react, you respond. You don't rush to fill every awkward moment. You don't flood her with emotional reassurance when she gets distant. You let space breathe. You let tension live. And while most men would panic in those gaps, you remain still. Why? Because you're not emotionally addicted to her response. You're rooted, you're regulated, and she can feel that. And once she realizes that you're not responding out of fear or need, she starts questioning what she's doing. She starts to feel a little uncertain, not because you're making her feel unworthy, but because she knows she hasn't fully earned you yet. That's the good kind of insecurity. It's not about tearing her down. It's about raising your standards so high that she knows she has to rise to meet it. It's the moment she starts dressing better before she sees you, texting first more often, reading into your tone, replaying your last conversation in her head. Not because you manipulated her, but because you made her feel like your energy has weight. And when energy has weight, it creates pull. And when it creates pull, she starts chasing, not just for attention, but for clarity. Every time you don't rush to explain yourself, every time you say less than expected, every time you hold eye contact without over-expressing emotion, you're applying pressure, not in a controlling way, but in an energetic way. Because now, she's not sure where she stands with you. And uncertainty is the breeding ground for attraction. The truth is, most women get bored when things are too obvious. But when they feel they're working just a little harder to figure you out, that's when the chase begins. And silent confidence, it's what puts you in that position. Without saying a word, a man who's truly confident doesn't try to convince her of anything. He doesn't oversell his value. He doesn't try to sound more interesting, more spiritual, more impressive. He just is. He knows he brings value into the space, and he doesn't need her to see it right away. He lets her discover it, and that discovery process is what creates obsession. Because now she's exploring you, she's studying you, she's paying closer attention to your mannerisms, your rhythm, your timing. And the less you try to be understood, the more she wants to understand you. And the irony is this: the more still and grounded you are, the more her own insecurities come to the surface. Why? Because she's not used to this. She's used to men being nervous, over-eager, emotionally reactive. But you're not fazed. And in that emotional contrast, she feels exposed. She realizes she wants you more than you want her. Not because you said that, but because your silence proved it. That's when she begins to chase. Not because you played hard to get, but because you already had yourself before she arrived. The man who's quietly confident doesn't announce that he has options. He doesn't drop hints. He doesn't need to show off. His very presence tells the story. She looks at you and knows this man's life is full. His schedule is tight. His purpose is locked in. So if you're giving her time, it means something. And when she knows that your energy isn't freely given, she starts treating it like something rare. And anything rare makes people nervous. Nervous enough to try harder. Nervous enough to think twice. Nervous enough to start chasing what they once took for granted. That's the beauty of silent confidence. It doesn't push her away. It pulls her in. It wraps her in mystery. It makes her wonder if she's doing enough, if she's showing up fully, if she's reading your signals right. And that's not cruel. That's clarity without explanation. And when a woman feels that kind of pressure, not from manipulation, but from your emotional stillness, she begins to realize she's dealing with a different kind of man. A man who doesn't perform, a man who doesn't fold, a man who doesn't explain every move, just moves with power and lets the world catch up. Silent confidence doesn't chase compliments, it allows respect to build itself. You don't ask her if she likes you. You don't dig for reassurance. You don't try to pull more emotion out of her than she's ready to give. You let her come forward in her own time. And while she's trying to figure you out, she's slowly falling deeper into your presence. Why? Because it's rare, because it's unnerving, because it makes her look at herself and ask, why am I so unsure around this man who hasn't even said much? That subtle self-questioning, that quiet internal pressure, it's what separates interest from investment. Your silence becomes a test, but not the kind you force. It's a mirror. You say little, and she starts talking more. You stay composed, and she starts fidgeting with her energy. You pull back without explanation, and she leans in harder to regain your closeness. But here's what's key. You never act surprised by it. You never brag about it. You expect it. Because your confidence doesn't come from her attention. It comes from the fact that you've already validated yourself. And that kind of internal validation, it changes how she shows up. Because now she feels like she has to earn a seat in your world, not the other way around. And when you do speak, your words land harder. Because now, she knows you don't just talk to fill space. You don't just say things to be liked. When you give her a compliment, it stuns her. When you say something direct, it sticks. When you share a piece of yourself, she holds onto it like it's rare treasure. Why? Because your silence built tension, and that tension made her value every moment of expression you chose to offer. You didn't offer your mind freely. You made her wait. And when she finally got a piece of it, it meant something. The man who carries silent confidence is not rude. He's not detached to punish. He's not stoic because he's afraid to feel. He feels deeply, but he doesn't bleed emotions for people who haven't earned them. He's selective with what he shares, and that selection makes her unsure in a good way. Because it's not about confusing her, it's about challenging her. And if she's a woman of value, she won't run from the challenge. She'll rise to it. She'll start being more intentional, more feminine, more emotionally attuned, because now she feels like she's dealing with a man who doesn't hand over intimacy cheaply. And when you create that kind of emotional contrast, she doesn't just want to be near you, she wants to figure you out. She starts reading your silences. She starts memorizing your pauses. She starts building an entire fantasy around your restraint. And while other men are oversharing, over-explaining, over-giving, you're giving her something far more intoxicating, the sense that she doesn't fully have you yet. That little dose of insecurity, that's the pull. That's what makes her keep showing up. Not because you're withholding, but because you're leading from depth, not performance. And here's the twist. The more she chases that understanding, the more attached she becomes. Not because you manipulated her, but because you never offered yourself in a way that felt cheap. You don't make her feel like your peace depends on her validation. You don't throw words at her when she's distant. You don't overcorrect just to make her feel safe. You let her feel the weight of your presence and the space of your absence. And when she realizes that both carry the same emotional charge, that's when she stops testing. That's when she starts adapting. Every woman wants to feel safe, but she also wants to feel drawn into something real. She wants to know the man she's with isn't emotionally desperate, that he doesn't crumble under silence, that he can sit in tension without breaking. And when she meets a man who can do that, not coldly, but confidently, her entire demeanor changes. She starts watching her tone. She starts mirroring your pace. She starts leaning in without even realizing it, because now your energy is the one setting the tone, and she's no longer leading the rhythm, you are. You don't need to speak to lead, you just need to be centered. And when she meets that, when she comes face to face with a man who doesn't get rattled by her moods, who doesn't hand over his energy every time she flicks a switch, who doesn't need to prove anything, she feels safe in a way she never knew she needed. It's a safety built on strength, not softness. And that strength, that's what makes her want to stay. Not just because she's attracted to you, but because now she's curious about you. And curiosity is the root of devotion. She doesn't feel insecure because you're mean. She feels it because you're complete. You're not trying to get something from her. You're not begging to be liked. You're not performing. You're just present, complete in your own rhythm, grounded in your own path. And the more she realizes she's dealing with a man who doesn't need her, but chooses her, the more pressure she feels to deserve that choice. That quiet sense of, he could leave at any time, but he hasn't. That's what keeps her thinking about you long after the conversation ends. So remember this, man. Silent confidence isn't about ignoring her. It's about knowing your value so well that you don't need to advertise it. It's about showing restraint that feels rare, energy that feels earned, presence that doesn't rush, doesn't flinch, doesn't explain. You make her feel just enough uncertainty to keep her engaged, just enough mystery to make her work, just enough stillness to make her lean in. Not because you're trying to control her, but because you've already mastered yourself. And that, brother, is the kind of energy no woman ever forgets.